Why do some religions ban pork while others don't? Have you ever wondered why some religions strictly forbid pork while others have no problem eating it? Why do Muslims, Jews, and even certain Christian groups follow strict dietary rules, but not everyone agrees? If these dietary laws all come from a divine source, shouldn't everyone eat the same way? Let's dig into this fascinating mystery together. Islam, clear prohibitions, halal. First, let's look at Islam. Muslims follow strict dietary laws called halal, which outline what is permissible to eat. The Quran explicitly forbids pork, blood, and animals not properly slaughtered. In Surah Al-Baqarah 2:173, it states clearly, "He has only forbidden to you dead animals' blood, the flesh of swine." For Muslims, avoiding pork reflects spiritual purity, obedience to Allah, and concerns for physical health. Many scholars also point out that in ancient times, pigs were known to carry diseases, making these dietary laws practical as well as spiritual. Judaism, ancient rules, kosher, and the meaning of unclean Muslims aren't alone in this. Jewish dietary laws, kosher rules, predate Islam and are found in the Torah. Like Islam, Judaism forbids pork and shellfish. In Leviticus 11:7 it states, "And the pig is unclean for you." But what does unclean actually mean? What does unclean mean? In biblical terms, unclean refers to animals and foods that God commanded the Israelites to avoid. Eating these foods was considered spiritually defiling and disobedient. Examples of unclean foods: Leviticus 11, Deuteronomy 14, land animals, pigs, pork, considered unclean because pigs do not chew cud, Leviticus 11:7. Any animal that does not both have split hooves and chew cud, e.g., camels, rabbits. Seafood. Only fish with fins and scales are considered clean. Shellfish such as shrimp, crab, and lobster are unclean. Leviticus 11:9-12. Birds. Birds of prey and scavengers, e.g., vultures, eagles, ravens, are unclean. Insects. Most insects are unclean except certain locusts and grasshoppers. Leviticus 11:22. Other forbidden foods. Animals that died naturally, without proper slaughter. Blood. Genesis 9:4, Leviticus 17:10-14. Why were certain foods deemed unclean? Scholars suggest a few key reasons. Spiritual purity, distinguishing Israelites from other cultures as a sign of holiness. Health reasons, many of these foods, if improperly handled, could cause disease. Symbolic meaning, representing purity and separation from pagan rituals. For Jewish people, these dietary laws remain an essential part of their spiritual identity. Christianity, Old versus New Testament shifts in dietary law. Since Christianity has roots in Judaism, early Christians also followed dietary restrictions. But something changed. In the New Testament, Jesus challenges these rules. Mark 7:18-19 says, "Nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them." Thus he declared all foods clean. Later, in Acts 10, the Apostle Peter has a vision where God explicitly removes dietary restrictions. As a result, most Christian denominations today do not follow Old Testament food laws, instead emphasizing spiritual purity over physical diet. But why did these dietary rules change over time? Did God's dietary rules change over time? Yes, dietary rules in the Bible evolved between the Old Testament, ancient times, and the New Testament, Christian era. Here's a simple breakdown. Old Testament, ancient times. Strict dietary rules. Time: 1400-400 BCE. Rules clearly outlined in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. Key unclean foods: pork, shellfish, scavenger birds, certain insects, improperly slaughtered animals. Blood. Purpose: spiritual purity and holiness, set apart from other cultures. Health and hygiene in ancient times. Obedience as a sign of devotion to God. Example: Scripture, Leviticus 11:7, and the pig. It is unclean for you. New Testament, after Christ. Dietary flexibility. Time: 1st century CE onward. Key teaching: Jesus and the apostles introduced new understanding that emphasized spiritual purity over dietary restrictions. ancient times, God's laws distinguished the Israelites. After Christ, the focus shifted to faith in the heart. Spiritual evolution. The Old Testament laid the foundation. The New Testament expanded on it. Universal message. Christianity became a global faith, open to all cultures beyond Israel. However, some Christian groups, like Seventh-day Adventists, still follow Old Testament food laws, believing they remain relevant for both health and spiritual life. Eastern religions, compassion and nonviolence. Moving east, Hinduism and Buddhism don't forbid pork specifically, but many followers choose vegetarian or vegan diets. Why? Because these religions emphasize ahimsa, nonviolence, teaching that avoiding harm to living beings is a form of spiritual discipline. For them, diet is more than just a rule. It's a way to express compassion, mindfulness, and respect for all life. Rastafarianism, natural purity, Ital diet. Then we have Rastafarianism. Rastas follow the Ital diet, which emphasizes natural, unprocessed foods. Many Rastas are vegetarian or vegan, believing that avoiding pork, processed foods, and alcohol promotes spiritual purity, physical wellness, and harmony with nature. Their dietary choices are not just about health, but about staying connected to a higher spiritual energy. Other religions and consistency. Interestingly, Islam and Judaism still maintain stricter dietary rules similar to ancient biblical laws, seeing them as timeless divine commands. Seventh-day Adventists also maintain these older dietary restrictions for health and spiritual reasons. So why the differences? If all these religions seek a connection to God, why do their dietary laws seem so different? Here are 3 key reasons. Cultural and historical context. Dietary laws often made sense for different cultures and times, promoting health, safety, and religious distinction. Spiritual symbolism. Food restrictions often symbolize obedience, purity, compassion, and respect for life. Interpretation and growth. Different religions interpret God's teachings uniquely, reflecting the rich diversity of human spiritual experience. Ultimately, these differences might not be contradictions, but instead show that God allows multiple paths to spiritual growth. Common ground and unity. Despite all these differences, consider this: all of these traditions share core values: respect for life, obedience to God, compassion, spiritual purity, and a deeper connection to something greater. Maybe the real lesson isn't about what's on our plates, but what's in our hearts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.